Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast. Today I'm joined on the podcast by Guosheng Zhao, who is Senior External Manufacturing Lead at LEO Pharma, based in Copenhagen, where he manages their global supply chain, CMO networks and relationships. Guosheng, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. Thank you for having me.
It'd be great to learn more about how you work with contract manufacturers. But before we do that, let's talk a bit about your career journey. Very international career, starting off, I believe, at Procter & Gamble in Beijing.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I started my first full-time job with Procter & Gamble in China, responsible for managing a few CMOs, focused on operations and supply chain management. Yeah, great learning from P&G, like everyone said that. And then I moved to Nokia. It was actually well before iPhone dominating the market. So 4 years with Nokia, I worked in different positions in supply chain and operations management. It was a great time. I loved the company and my coworkers. And then I quit from Nokia. I moved to Europe for my master degree studies. In total 2 years in Sweden and Belgium. And then after that, I spent a few years working in Philips Lighting, PricewaterhouseCoopers as a management consultant, and Jabra in China and Denmark.
On your move from big global companies on the supply chain side into management consulting, how did you find that transition?
It was actually quite natural, When I was a consultant, my clients were, companies like my previous employers, mainly multinational corporates doing merger and acquisition activities in China, Europe, US. So it was quite smooth moving from the back then the client side to the consulting side. So it was quite smooth.
Has it given you a different perspective moving forward as you go to other companies, having those couple of years at PwC in management consulting? Does it give you a slightly different lens to look at things?
Definitely. Very different perspectives when you see the business, right? As a consultant, I got a chance to, provide advice and support to CEO, CFO regarding their strategy. And, either taking adding a new part into their business by acquire a business or go to a new market in a different continent. So I had a chance to learn quite a lot from clients back then, actually. And then also be able to lift myself, seeing the business at, let's say CXO level. So it was quite nice experience.
And then from management consulting at Jabra, that's when you went into working at LEO Pharma within a procurement role, right? Within category management. What prompted that change to go from management consulting into more procurement focused role?
My role back in Jabra was, in-house consultant. I was also driving a few strategic projects, including procurement projects. And then it's actually a big advantage for me to get the job as a category manager in LEO Pharma. So I just instead managing IT vendors, and I start to manage and look at the contract of R&D vendors. That back then was preclinical development and regulatory affairs, pharmacovigilance. So I, of course, need to learn a lot about this highly regulated industry, which was quite new. But I could also leverage my overall experience, in procurement, supply chain management, vendor management, So it was definitely a great and correct move.
And then within LEO Pharma, up the ranks within procurement, and then into where you are now, within external management. Interesting if you could just talk about the differences between external manufacturing and procurement, and whether having that procurement background is helpful for someone moving into an external manufacturing world. They're two very closely related, overlapping worlds.
Yeah, working procurement, you mainly work to support the line of business, right? To help them to select vendors, no matter it's CRO, CMO, CDMO, And then after you onboard this vendor, you probably need to a few months to hypercare the vendor to make sure their operation is smooth and they support the need of the business. And then actually as procurement, your responsibility is basically done. You may need to, renegotiate the contract once in a while, but then the relationship moves to the business. And then in external manufacturing, ideally the contract should be jointly driven by procurement and line of business, because you need to provide very clear business needs to your procurement colleagues. And then once the CMO is onboarded, then the management of their performance and the relationship is within external manufacturing. So you need to make sure they provide you the stable product supply, the quality is approved, and then the overall operation, including supply chain, quality, regulatory affairs, updates, technical, finance, and also contract is going smooth. Then that's the main responsibility working as a senior external manufacturing lead at LEO.
To give us a sense of the types of products that you work across, are you able to explain a bit about the portfolio that you manage, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not allowed to disclose the specific name of the products, but
sure.
I would say, I manage both small molecules and biologics. And then they covering dermatology and thrombosis areas. So, LEO, we have a long history and very strong history in dermatology. And then actually it's also where the company is focused on. At the same time, we are also very strong in thrombosis medicines. So I got the chance to work with both dermatology and thrombosis medicines for the company.
How deep do you go yourself into trying to understand the science? Because when you're talking about areas like dermatology, if you're talking about being responsible for the small molecules and the biologics, I mean, there is potentially such a huge amount to learn.
Yes.
How much do you find helpful to learn about?
Yeah, well, it's, personally, I have a very big interest in understanding the science. It's actually back from the procurement, right? When you have a colleague from R&D comes to you saying, hey, can you help me to, fund or sign a contract for a preclinical study for this product. And then I'll give you one example. If you see, they choose this monkeys or non-human primates for study, it's pretty expensive. One joke I always tell my colleague is, some people may tell me, well, monkeys are so expensive. Why don't you just change it to some mice or rats? It's much more cheaper. And then it actually can really assault your colleague from R&D, because, it's deep science. They're working every day. It's just one example of, different, let's say, big molecule, small molecule is very different. If you have the interest to dive a little bit deeper in the science, it actually will help you a lot, help you to deliver what you need to deliver more efficient, and have to build good relationship with the co-workers and external suppliers. It's just I'm still learning the science part from my colleagues in quality, in RA, in technical process every day. I find it's amazing, fantastic. And of course, if you keep learning, it will actually make sure you go a much further way compared to another mindset is, I'm a business guy. I don't want to know much about the science or the technical part. So
talking about learning, I mean, it's clearly something you enjoy. I mean, you're currently at the Said Business School as part of the University of Oxford. How are you finding that?
It's actually in my career development plan. I have this conversation with my manager twice a year. So I've been very I've been demanding for this leadership development opportunity for 2 years, and finally I got the chance. It's actually sponsored by the company. I got to join this online program provided by Said Business School of Oxford. It's quite intense. So each week I need to finish a model and hand in my homework. With great learning, so you get chance to both learn from the scholars from Oxford, but also they have invited quite a few industrial leaders to share their first-hand leadership experience and advice to you. So it was very beneficial program. I loved it.
Great. So let's talk then about external manufacturing and some of the challenges that you're coming across and some of the insights which you could share. So to start with then, how do you go about securing the medicine supply for patients, maintaining a stable product supply?
So stable product supply is also important. It's quality approved. Sometimes you have the product over there, but you're not allowed to release them. So that's also another thing. To secure the product supply. So basically, you have in-house production, right? But now we focus on external manufacturing, CMOs. So whenever adding CMOs into your supply chain, you actually prolong your supply chain. You're adding more parties into the supply chain. That also means additional risks, right? So, at the end, my responsibilities, we have stable and quality approved medicine supply to our patients. What I need to do is actually focus on first, of course, the performance of the CMO, right? I need to have a regular follow-up with them to monitor their performance. Everything goes smoothly over there. And then supply chain-wise, we have materials supplied by the CMO and also by my company itself. So the supply chain part for both CMO and in-house supply chain is also important. And then quality-wise, right? Then the quality is only when something happens, then we get informed, and then we need to find a solution to solve it within a time frame. And then your recent of the EU Annex 1 actually puts quite much new requirement to the whole industry. You also need to take care of that part, and then contracts need to be reviewed and monitored closely. So it's a lot of stakeholders to actually jointly contribute. We have stable and quality approved product supply to the market. And then to manage those, a large group of stakeholders, you need a structure. For the practice we have external manufacturing team involving all the functions that supply chain, quality, RA, technical, legal, procurement, all those areas. So as the lead of this group of stakeholders, I need to make sure each work stream they working on their tasks, and then I also need to check regularly with the timeline of any big initiatives. They have the right resource, or they get the response from the CMO. So quite often I also need to help them to talk to CMO. Hey, I see this project plan from you, and then you plan to get it completed by a certain month, but actually this is the situation here, and this is the RA guidelines in Europe, and then we actually need to relook at the timeline. So that's what I do for every day.
So all of those different internal stakeholders that you mentioned, do they all have an equivalent at the CMO? Does quality speak to quality? Do they generally have direct relationships with the CMO? How do you tend to manage the internal team you have and the CMO's team?
Yeah, usually they have equivalent teams in the CMO side, but you also sometimes see, let's say CMOs with a shorter history compared to LEO, or operating in different territory. Sometimes you see quality and RA, they are a little bit blurred, but actually and then my focus is, if I could say that like top 3 focus areas in this in this stakeholder management, I would also say supply chain, quality, regulatory affairs. I would say the top three functions that I look at.
How do you go about building that collaborative culture between those two teams? Because sometimes it's easier than others, I think, to build a collaborative working culture for people who are in the same office. If you're doing in-house manufacturing or within the same facility, you feel like you're on the same team. With contract manufacturing, particularly if you're geographically quite distant from each other, how do you make that work in a remote working environment?
It's about remote working, right? I try my best, right? I call for usually monthly team meetings online with internal stakeholders and also external stakeholders, including all the functions. So yeah, it's a way most of the companies work now. But on the other hand, it's in-person meeting and in-person collaboration is also important. And then twice a year, usually I also get a chance to meet the CMO. Sometimes bring my colleagues from different functions and then see the CMO. And then it's been essential to create understanding and trust with the CMO. Yeah, I would say online working plus in-person meetings super important.
Any tools or techniques you'd recommend to create a collaborative environment when you're working remotely?
Once a week, we have a very much work-focused online meeting, but I would also have once in a while an online meeting, coffee talk, right? We don't talk about work right now. We just talk about life and how is your interaction with the CMO counterpart, anything that I can help you with. So that's what I've been doing, and I find it's quite useful.
When you're going through a selection process for partners, how do you prefer to do this? I mean, I guess with your background in procurement, perhaps you might have quite a structured type of approach to do that. How do you go about that vendor selection process, please?
Yeah, the vendor selection, yes. It started with RFI, request for information, and request for proposal, and request for quotation, right? And then in total, it started with a quite large group of potential CMOs, and then after one or two rounds, you focus on a few. And then in the RFP, you focus on areas like their facility, their capacity, technology, and quality, price, sustainability areas. And then at the end, you have an overall metrics, compare the score or rating for each CMO. You'll go for the one that to be picked. That's actually a traditional approach in selecting a CMO. But personally, after working with CMO, I think one part is actually missing, which is I would call it the cultural fit. Or it has been overlooked in the traditional approach because it's super beneficial if you and the CMO have a common understanding, so you can collaborate in a much smoother way instead of challenging each other. Why you work in a way like this, which is so much different compared to ours, and we don't understand how you work that. So I think that's sometimes you follow the structure of the criteria, but also sometimes you also need to really feel it's right to work with a CRO.
When it comes to cultural fit, are there any geographical challenges? So being a European company working with a CMO in Asia, in North America, what are the kind of cultural challenges that you've come across?
Definitely, culture very different in the different continents. I would say, in general, of course, we based in Europe. It's much smoother collaborate with the CMOs in Europe and US. It's mainly because FDA, they have a different requirement compared to EMA, and sometimes we ask questions or documents, then yeah, they may say, okay, we aren't prepared according to the FDA standards, and we don't have anything like that. Yeah, we expect them to be, collaborative to help us to provide the information or data that we can submit to EMA, but it's not always smooth. And then Asia, there are a lot of CMO, CROs based in China and India. First, it's the time zone can always be a challenge. And also, still there's regulatory requirements. It's not always easy to work with the CMO over there, and also the new requirements, for example, EU GMP Annex 1 plus the Bio Act in the US. It's actually create a lot of potential risks that we need to think about when onboarding a new CMO.
You mentioned earlier how one of the big differences from going from a procurement role into external manufacturing is that you're not just doing the onboarding and then walking away.
Oh.
You're sort of managing it for the long term and working with those partners, optimizing them. I wonder what advice you could share or what strategy you use when you're optimizing, trying to improve efficiencies or trying to get innovation from your external partners.
Then I think the foundation of that is to build mutual understanding and trust, right? Then to be looking at the performance of the CMO and able to understand what are the, say, bottlenecks and holding them to really perform. And then also to learn from each other. I can also share one example, that one of our CMO and our in-house production, actually, they have their technical team talking direct to each other and say, okay, for example, a rejection rate, like how can we reduce the rejection rate for a certain stage of the production? That's all based on the deep trust that we have been built towards each other over the years. So, yeah, basically understand the business need from each other, and then to have this open and collaborative mindset. And again, that takes time to really build the trust.
There's been so much change in the last 6 months or so. Take the Novo Catalent deal, taking CMOs out of the market. What kind of impact do you think that makes when you're trying to have a long-term, stable supply chain?
Yeah, sure. Well, the big pharmas, they are adding their capacity, right? They building their new sites by themselves and also through activities. This, I personally, has a huge impact on small and medium-sized pharma companies. Biologics fill and finish is not a capacity that you can easily add in by your own, so they use CMOs. And then this, M&A activities actually left this smaller pharma companies think about their long-term product supply strategy. And then one of the risks that they need to think about is, now a CMO has a new owner, and then they probably will have a different strategy compared to the, previously. And then the question for the CMO's customer is, will they still be interested to work with us, right? And what if they walk away from us? And then what should we do and to make sure our product supply is stable and quality approved? I think that's a very relevant question for a lot of small and medium-sized pharma using CMOs, which have been impacted in those M&A activities. It's always rational to keep tracking the CMO supply landscape and then to adjust your strategy accordingly.
When it comes to technology, there's a lot of potential for digital CMC to really make a difference in terms of making everything more efficient, more automated, much more transparent. What are you seeing at the moment? Are the CMOs digitizing at the same rate that you would like?
They leveraging also AI and machine learning in their production. I know some of those CROs, they using AI in imaging. That's quite a lot. But for me, one of my pain points in CMO is actually for biologics is visual inspection. A lot of the products, or I would say a lot of the biologics, visual inspection still kind of 100% manual. I would expect the big breakthrough, regarding machine learning, and then it can be trained. The computer can be trained by thousands or millions of images in visual inspection. Then we can automate this visual inspection, and then the productivity can be hugely improved. That's actually a specific area I'd like to see some improvement.
That seems to be one of the areas where AI's been able to make a real impact, scanning lots of X-rays and lots of images.
Yes, for some of the products, it's 100% automated visual inspection. But due to the product itself, some of them I know they still 100% manual, and I don't really understand the challenges regarding the technical part. But I believe there are quite some companies investing and working on that, and I have to see a big change coming soon.
Very interesting. As a final question, what advice would you have for others who are looking to move into external manufacturing? Perhaps people who've taken the same sort of journey as you, having worked in procurement and then want to move into working more on the business side.
Yeah, the first thing is it's beneficial definitely to have a supply chain background. You understand the whole production. And then the second part is actually, it's a highly regulated area, industry. I'm still amazed every day by how a small change is being managed, assessed, and approved in the industry. It's not like, when you're cooking pasta, you use one pot today and you just want to use another pot second day. It's totally different. It's highly regulated. It's be prepared to have to learn a lot. And then back to what we discussed at the beginning is kind of it's also my advice to be a little bit curious in the sense you need to understand your product, right? And also where can go smooth or where can go wrong, and where you can do to really improve the performance of the supply situation of your product. That's some areas that probably I would say people need to look at when they looking to move into the CMO management roles.
That's great advice. Guosheng, thank you so much for your time today. Really interesting speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. Thank you for having me.
To keep up to date with the latest in biopharma outsourcing, sign up to pharmasource.global. Thank you for listening.